There are a lot of women ambao they have been playing the role in mentoring young women. Kuna programs kibao zilikuwepo, kwa mfano enzi zile kina Buni Divas, kuna Apps and Girls, which is still there, kina Carolina Kiarizima. There's a lot kina Catherine Rose have done. There's another program that I was also involved in, ilikuwa ya Sweden though. It is actually still there. IT bootcamp. They train university women for 100 university women every year. Wanafanya mara mbili, I think it's up. So kuna a lot that has been done. In terms of swali lako, kuna a lot of aspects inabidi mtu aangalie. Ukija ukisema uanze kujudge how many female-led tech startups or startups zipo kwenye ecosystem na zimekuwa na zina high growth, that is a different perspective. Ukija kuangalia how many women are in the ecosystem as decision makers and pushers and all of that, that's a different perspective. Well, there's a lot of different perspective, to be honest, and I also need to go through the full report visually so that I don't say something that is not clear or right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Lakini in the same question, Rwanda has been mentioned more than once in that index report. What do you think are the role of women Rwanda? Yani Rwanda imeonekana kulead on that. Now, what do you think are the role of women in that, and what are the key learnings that we can take from them?
I'm going to tell you the same thing. I've not gone through the report, but I'll tell you what. For Rwanda to rank hierarchy in innovation and technology, it has there's a lot of moving parts that are playing that role. One to start with is the government itself. There's a good conducive environment ambayo inatengenezwa na serikali to encourage the growth of innovative startups, innovations generally kwenye business and all of that. There's a good system and incentives ambazo zinawekwa na government to create a good proper business environment for businesses in Rwanda. Rwanda is positioning itself as the Switzerland of Africa, like the most leading technology country in Africa. And it's not just in the business world, it is in the business world, but in different sectors, from tourism to tech, to all of that. Because there's a lot of moving parts, how the president is engaging with youths and in innovation hubs and all of that. Like in the government of Rwanda itself, in terms of leadership, they have, if I'm not mistaken, wana sifa kubwa sana ya kuwa gender inclusive. There are a lot of women in the leadership positions. Nani yule Bayogo, is it Bayogo? Somebody, I need to check her name. The minister of ICT, I think she's still the minister of ICT. It's a young lady in Rwanda. Well, there's a lot of that in terms of gender perspective. In terms of the report, I really can't say what we can learn. As I say that, honestly, I haven't gone through the whole report yet. Like in one, it's the environment ambayo inatengenezwa sasa na serikali. In terms of inclusion in leadership, in terms of inclusion in understanding players tofauti in the innovation ecosystem, engaging with them and understanding what they're doing, which, for instance, I saw that a lot in our case. Niliona, unfortunately, the former minister of ICT, Mheshimiwa Ndungulie was really trying to do that. We're hoping that Mheshimiwa aliyeingia sasa hivi, and the good thing also, she's a woman, so it's also a good maybe learning here, as the way Rwanda are doing to encourage inclusion and encourage women to play more roles. But yeah, that's what I can say in terms of that question. There's another question kwenye chat box, inasema, why is it important to take gender concerns into account, especially in Tanzania? Wow. First and foremost, women are, in this case, for instance, in Tanzania, it's a bigger population than men. We're above 50%, if not about 60% of the population. That's one. Two, in many aspects, for instance, Tanzania economy yake kubwa sana imebase kwenye agriculture and small businesses. Kwenye agriculture, majority of peasant farmers are women. That's one. Majority of small and medium size businesses is agriculture, women-led or women-owned businesses, although they don't, unfortunately, they don't grow. And then kuja sasa kwenye population, meaning a lot of kama a bigger size, a bigger chunk ni women, meaning productions, youth wanaotoka shuleni, and there's a lot of that. So if you have that, a bigger percentage of what you have on ground are women, how can you say utatengeneza, utadesign a program, na utataka implement a program bila include au consider a bigger chance of the people, of the population that you're going to deal with, unless specifically program yako inaenda deal na specific gender. So if your program is purely for boys, or your program is purely for girls, ina maana the key indicator aspects the program yako litakuwa nini? Litakuwa specifically catered and designed for that particular gender. So I think vitu hivyo, yani the simplest indicators of population and economic sectors ambazo ni leading, and they're mostly held and zinasimamiwa au zinakuwa pushed zaidi wale ambao wako on ground kabisa ni women. It's enough reason why we should be concerned and putting into account gender issues when it comes to program design and implementation. So swali lingine linasema, je, kuna sera gani ambayo ipo inawapa wanawake kuwa katika nyanja ya kiteknolojia ili iwe chachu ya kuleta maendeleo kwa jamii ilayo hasa kwa wanawake? I've learned one thing. If you don't know, you say you don't know. I don't know much about policy and this case. Lakini I remember, was it May or June this year? We were reading kuna document ya policy iliyotengenezwa mwaka 1990 ya ICT ya Tanzania. Funny thing, when you read that policy, vitu vingi, is it an act? I don't know the difference between policy and act, but when you read that document, if I have it, I'm going to share it with Catherine. I'll look for it up and Tasha Catherine, if she can share with you guys. There's a lot of issues ambazo sasa hivi tunaziongelea, mambo ya women, young girls and women to be included kwenye access of internet, access of technology, exposed to technology stuff, zimeongelewa enzi hizo, like the beginning of our government. I think ni enzi za Nyerere wakati inatengenezwa ile. Things are there. It's that we have not gone back and read them and find ways to implement these kind of things. We have not taken time to understand what vision waliokuwepo walikuwa wameona au wameweka in place, na sisi tuone tunakoelekea, and merge those two and create something that is favorable. But I know for a fact when you read much back, unagundua kabisa issues za gender inclusion kwenye mambo ya teknolojia were there back then. Yeah. I think we're just reaching a level of starting to implement that and starting to see the loopholes ambazo zipo for not including women, or for not including people ambao wako kwenye rural areas. So we're pushing it louder, but I think kuna vitu vingi ambavyo vilikuwa addressed at least on paper mapema sana.
Thank you so much.
Continue.
Challenge the gender mainstreaming.
Okay. I think I mentioned a couple of them kwenye ile session ya kwanza, and wakati naongea pia, if you're listening well, I try to show some of the hiccups ambazo zinaweza zikatokea, but I'll say a few. One is context and environment. Context, environment, and culture. Now, you can't separate these three in most cases. Nilitoa mifano mingi ya kwamba kuna environment ukifika, kama unataka communicate in ways ambazo zina encourage gender inclusion, au you're trying to kutengeneza awareness of why it's important for women and girls in that community to be included, you will have to go through a certain process that in an ideal situation is not supposed to be there. So for instance, kuna communities ambazo ukitaka engage with women, some of them in Tanzania, some of them ziko in Horn of Africa sana, Somali, Djibouti, wengine hizi nchi ambazo hizi zina vita, for instance Afghanistan, Iraq and all of that. You need to see the community leaders first, who majority of them are men. You will need to convince the community leader, the chief or the what, the reasons why you actually need to talk to these women, or that you think is skills inahitajika for these women and stuff like that. If you're able to make peace with the community leader, then you can have access to the girls, and then ile chain reaction of whatever you're trying to create inakuwa haianzi kwa the girls or the women that you engage in the community, inaanzia from the gatekeepers of that community, who majority of them are men, and then older women ambao in many cases kwenye environment ya kama hivi unakuta they also have the same kind of mentality ambayo in some cases doesn't really favor a certain kind of growth in women and young girls. Inabidi ume make peace, or create an environment that is conducive with the gatekeepers, ili mpaka ufikie na kutengeza. The chain reaction inaanza sasa ni top down. It's no longer down up, kwamba you can create awareness to the community, and then the community ile chain reaction itaenda mpaka ifike kwenye leadership, and then policy itabadilika. No, inaanza sasa differently. You have to deal with the leaders, the gatekeepers of our community. Ishuke chini mpaka ufike huko, and then slowly things will change. So those kind of things okay, I'm sorry guys, na maswali mengi, please continue. That can be one of the challenges, environment, context in which you communicate something, or in which gender mainstreaming is being pushed. Pia inaweza ikawa issue kubwa sana. Nilitolea mfano wa issue za land. Nilitolea mfano wa issues za land, nikatolea mfano wa issues za, nilitoa mfano wa kipindi cha war and stuff like that. Kwa kuna those kind of challenges ambazo zinaweza zikatokea, lakini pia kitu kingine cha challenge ya gender mainstreaming ni access. Kwa mfano kwenye digital access, but there's still a lot of women they have access ya mobile. Sasa hivi imekuwa kubwa sana in Tanzania, penetration ni kubwa, lakini internet penetration is not as much. And then kuna penetration ya internet, lakini sasa understanding on how can they use digital devices and how properly can they use them, kwa sababu ana pick up and call and stuff like that. Kuna a number of challenges like that. Another challenge maybe policies zinazokuwepo. I know for a fact a lot of you mtakuwa mmeisikia ile case ya, kwa mfano, it's a simple example ya case ya ndoa za utotoni, Rebecca Gyumi versus, I would say, versus the government or the court. Imeenda muda mrefu kwa sababu pia ya issues za culture za some of the viongozi waliokuwepo, lakini pia mazingira ya law and policies and acts and all legal and regulatory system ambayo ipo. Unaona? So it is something that will take time, but what's important is to keep on pushing and keep on creating an environment that is gender inclusive and gender sensitive. Another question is, how can we reduce this gender gap in digital platforms or in digital media? So, excuse me, I said before, one ni access. Hiyo nimeisema sana. Increase mobile access, increase technology access, so increase internet access in the country. That's the first step. You do that. Second step is knowledge, the technical how, teach the young girls and women and other community members in the group on how do they use platforms like this for good, whether it's learning, whether it's communicating, whether it's revenue generation, that you reduce the gender gap massively. And then another thing, it's encourage, create a legal regulatory environment that would encourage a certain kwa mfano ukiobserve kwamba a lot of Tanzanian YouTubers labda or women, kwamba a lot of their channels are around, let's say, makeup and all of that. So a lot of YouTubers labda ukifanya research yako kwa observe women, creating an environment that encourages and support the growth of the content creators in Tanzania may be one of the ways you encourage the closing of the gender gap in the digital media. Creating programs ambazo zina push zaidi a lot of more women to get in digital journalism, digital media journalism, and to understand how to properly communicate in the digital world, to engage with different platforms, to build their own digital media platforms or companies and stuff like that. That's also one of the ways you can reduce gender gap. but also just encourage more, just create more self-awareness and awareness kuanzia chini. Kwa hiyo in primary schools, in secondary schools, in universities, all of that will create a massive chain reaction from each building blocks of a community. Okay, ni measure gani zinatumika to improve gender mainstreaming in developing countries so as to strengthening national capacities to prevent response to gender-based violence such as FMG? Okay, TZ imekuwa moja kati ya nchi ya kusini magharibi Sahara na Afrika kwa ujumla. Matumizi ya digital platform yamekuwa kwa kiasi hii inatokana na kwa, lakini kama tunavyojua kuna kundi kubwa sana limeathirika katika nyanja tofauti. Mfano, ndugu dunia kwa sasa inapambana na online abuse. Okay, so I'll start with ili la chini, and then I'll come ili la improving gender mainstreaming. Issues la online abuse lina mambo mengi ndani yake sana, sio kidogo. Unfortunately, pia it's also way beyond gender. It's around culture and mindset, a particular community. And when I say a particular community, I don't just mean Tanzania. Kitu ambacho digital media imeleta au digital platforms imeleta ni kitu kinaitwa tribes. Naturally ni nature ya binadamu kutamani kubelong in a community, kubelong somewhere, yani hivyo, like that. It's a nature. Na similarly kwa jinsi sasa hizi online platforms zimetengenezwa, automatically you will find yourself molded into a certain community depending on vitu unavyo engage navyo, the people you follow, the posts you engage with, the content you put out there, and the content you engage with. Sasa, that does not necessarily mean save from this kind of incidences, abuse na nini, lakini because of that pia ime create an environment of where watu ambao, I don't know if I don't have a proper word, but some people who are emotionally and mentally unstable, or people who are coming from a certain culture or context or background ambayo there's a lot of emotions battled up, also create their own sort of community. People who are coming from a certain kind of faith or belief in certain things, whether in politics or what politics, what kind of in politics, in what context, also engage similarly. They have their own small community. Sasa, incidences of abuse zinatokea because of clashing of culture, context and perspective, and personality and mindset za watu. Kuna mtu yeye akiingia mtandaoni always ni amemtukana huyu, amembeza huyu, amefanya hivi, amefanya hivi. Yani that's just them. Kuna mwingine akiingia online, they just want to share their lives and they move on. And then kuna mwingine ameingia online, they're just depressed that day, and you decided to share your, I don't know, your house, your mansion, and all of that. So every stress and alionayo that day is going to be poured into you. Now, how do you prevent that? One is one is learning how to properly use zile nitumie self-protection measures ambazo ziko kwenye nani. Learn to mute and block people. That's the easiest way. Second, of course, ni hivi sasa measures ambazo zinakuwa taken sasa hivi ku create awareness of how do you properly engage online, how do etiquettes za online engagement kwa different people in the communities. Lakini also just be careful in the kind of circles that you engage in online. Ukiona in one way or another, a lot of people that you're engaging with are this kind of abusive people, watch who you follow, what you like and stuff like that, and try to fanyaje kufilter hicho kitu. Sasa let me go to the question ya kwanza, ni measure gani zinatumika to improve gender mainstreaming in developing countries so as to okay, one of the measures I think we see it even in Tanzania ni issues za encourage more inclusive leadership. Kuna inclusive leadership, lakini pia kwenye SDG is issue ya gender economic. A lot of countries right now are trying to uphold to encourage more women to be economically independent, to be able to cater for an environment where more leaders or more women can take roles ambazo decision-making roles, kwa sababu as impactful kama the position is not a leader, is not a decision-making position, or it's not a position of influence. I've seen a lot of countries pushing that. If issue kama ya FGM, there are a lot of measures kusema kweli ambazo zinakuwa taken, sio tu just awareness, supporting organizations ambazo zina work with communities kuwaelimisha, ku-prevent that. Kuna a lot of communities ambazo wametengeneza mpaka safe haven, inaitwa safe haven for women ambao wanakuwa abused, for girls ambao that have gone through FGM or they have run away from home kwa sababu ya kukwepa FGM and stuff like that. So countries are trying. I'm seeing this happening in Kenya. I'm seeing that happening in Nigeria. I've also engaged with some organizations in Tanzania kwenye areas like FGM and stuff like that. But it's a culture thing, quite something that is still, it's improving, but it's still taking time, and we need to push harder and push more. Yep. So any more questions, or we are done? Our time is almost running out.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. That was very...
Wait. Hello. Hello, Vanessa, and everyone.
Hi.
Okay, so na swali moja.
Yes.
I think itakuwa la mwisho japokuwa muda umeisha. Tunazungumziaje wale watu ambao wapo sehemu za remoteness area, yani ambazo sehemu sio rahisi kupata taarifa au kuendelea, na kwa bahati mbaya maybe kwa sababu Tanzania ni kubwa, kuna sehemu nyingine najua huduma za hizi internet hazijafika na huduma nyingine za kijamii ambazo inakuwa ni ngumu sana kuzipata, na still bado wanahitaji msaada ambao ni haki yao, kwa sababu kikatiba wana haki ya kupata taarifa na kujua what going on and to know
I'm not sure, I think it's Samahani, nimekupoteza. Unaweza kaanza upya? Nadhani my internet was unstable. Unaweza kurudia swali lako?
Yeah, naweza nikarudia. Nilikuwa nasema kwamba tunawachukuliaje au tunawasaidiaje wale watu ambao hawezi access katika this I mean gender what wale ambao hawezi access labda mtandao au wale ambao lakini hawana sehemu ya kusemea. Ameuliza kwa Bwana Riadhi, ukasema pia kuna hizi commitments za watu na nini, lakini tunazungumzia commitment. Kuna wale watu ambao hawezi wakasikika, hawasikiki labda ya umbali wao wa maeneo ya kijiografia au kwa sababu ya umbali wanazotoka au kwa sababu ya umbali wa mtu mwenyewe kuweza labda kuamua kushare. Tumekuwa tunaona katika mtandao kama ulivyosema, mtu anaingia mtandaoni anatoa status yake, labda mwingine ana depression, mwingine ana furaha, mwingine anataka kuonyesha maisha yake. Vipi wale ambao wana access ya mtandao na still bado wanakutana na hizi online abuses na hizi gender based violence na kama nilivyosema huyu bwana kuna mchangiaji hapa ameuliza swali, unalizungumzaje?
Okay, so approach in any situation, there is something called agility, right? You need to be flexible. Approach ya watu ambao bado hawana access and you want to bring issues of gender awareness to them, and you want to encourage issues of access. I said it, how I would suggest there to encourage access. Kama unataka kufikia this kind of communities, my advice would be, one, there has to be a way, a more encouragement kufanya kazi au na support, both technical and financial support kwa organizations ambazo zinafanya kazi na hizi communities on ground. Lakini pia kuna hizi, how do you work as an organization or as a person, how do you work with these help desks za serikali to create an environment ambayo kweli issues za gender violence that is not conducive for women and girls ambao wako in these areas, or even young boys and men happening in this community, zinakuwa not just listened to, but zinakuwa responded to in a proper way. How do you work? Kwa kuna haja ya create a good public-private partnership between the government, now private organizations and CSOs ambao wanafanya kazi with these communities on seeing how kuna kwa yanacreatiwa hayo mazingira. Lakini pia the idea of creating safe haven for these people who are experiencing this kind of things are important. Concept ya therapist or counselor in most of our communities, a professional one is not, in some contexts inachukuliwa kama vile matawi ya juu au unajidekeza sana, lakini when you look at it, it has been there before, way longer in our communities. The only different approach that we're using ilikuwa unaenda kuongea na watu wazima, which is a little bit different. Now we have a lot of cases of where the watu wazima, the ones who are causing those harms to the girls or to the children. So creating hivi vituo salama na hivi vituo vya misaada ambavyo vinatengenezwa na government or some private organizations, creating services kama hizo za psychological support, mental support, safe haven, kwamba mtu anaweza akatoka kwake akaja akalala akapata sehemu ya kuishi mpaka mazingira yake yakae salama, are also as things that I would suggest as a community to vifanye ili create mazingira ambayo ni inclusive kwa wale ambao wako in rural areas, lakini pia mazingira ambayo yako safe. So yeah, mimi those would be my few humble suggestions to start with, kwa sababu hatuwezi tukasema it will take a lot of massive resources kusema okay, effective immediately anza kuvuta internet kule, push sijui ugawaji wa nini na za kidigitali kule and stuff like that. Itabidi wa educate and nini. You start slowly, you start with what you have, start engaging with the communities that are already, with organizations that are already working and engaging with these communities, work with these governmental safe desks, and see, are they really functioning well in terms of, are they really gender sensitive? Do they need support, whether it's technical know-how, whether it's technical support, whether it's those kind of stuffs, infrastructural support, resources. Tukianzia hapo, itatusaidia kufika tunapotaka kufika.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. That was a very good insights and very potential. And I hope everyone is very satisfied with what have been discussed today here with Vanessa Kisowile. If there is anything to say, you can leave it kwenye chat box, au nitoe kama dakika 2 za kujitafakari kama kuna mtu ana chochote cha kusema before we close.
Sure.
Our session. Yes, karibu.
I'm sorry guys, na maswali mengi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Tuliwahi kuwa na mkutano kama huu, nafikiri hapa aliwahi kuwepo Given Edward, na moja ya vitu ambavyo amekuwa alivizungumzia, mada ilikuwa inahusu online safety kama mnakumbuka, na moja ya vitu ambavyo alikuwa alivizungumzia actually, alizungumzia kuhusu hate speech na misinformation, nafikiri kwa kitu kama hiko, na alizungumza safety. Vanessa amezungumza Vanessa. Oh my God. Vanessa amezungumza vizuri na nimpongeza, amejitahidi. That's what we want. Sasa je, swali langu la mwisho, kuna hiki kitu cha misinformation, kwa sababu unajua kwenye platform kuna vitu vingi. How tunafanyaje ili kuweza kuchambua au kuchakatua hizi data ambazo nyingi ni za uongo au nyingi ni za ukweli? Kuna nyingine za ukweli na nyingi ni za uongo, kwa sababu mwisho wa siku tusije tukawalaumu labda wanawake kwamba bwana, nyinyi mmekuwa mkifanya 1 2 3 ambavyo ni vitu hatarishi au ni vitu ambavyo havina maadili, lakini kumbe hizo inaweza kuwa information hiyo ni ya uongo. Au tumekuwa labda tukiwalaumu labda wababa wamekuwa wakiongoza katika masuala ya kikatili au ukatili wa kijinsia na masuala mengine ambayo ni ya kikatili, lakini kumbe lamkini data alizotumia ni za uongo au ni za miaka mingi iliyopita. Sasa je, unaweza kusema nini juu ya hii misinformation?
Okay. I will tell you one thing. The issue of misinformation is something all of us across the world are trying to figure that out. Like any other challenge ambayo inakuja with advanced of anything, this is coming with the advance of technology and connectedness, the globe and the community at large. That's one. To now, what do I think? How do we address misinformation? It's a matter, ambayo ina boil down to a lot of things, one being the ethics of an individual or the organization that is pushing that agenda. I'll give you a simple example. 2019 ilipotokeaga ile vurugu South Africa, between South Africans and Nigerians. I was in South Africa during that very week. Like, yeah, nimeland South Africa, I'm in the taxi napita naenda because I stayed in Johannesburg. Literally nimepita sehemu ambayo polisi wamejaa, vurugu ilikuwa inaendelea and stuff like that. But what happened was, of course, my driver alinipa story what really happened na nini. But then what happened kwenye mitandao sasa, ilichukuliwa, was it Tiwa Savage, I think, alishare picha ambayo ilikuwa inaonyesha South Africa, ilikuwa inaonyesha polisi wanamshoot mtu. And what she said was, look at how our Nigerian brothers are being killed. Kilichotokea after that was South Africans in Nigeria, maduka yao yalivamiwa, yakawa vandalized. It was chaos. Just for a couple of hours or days later, for ile picha kuja kujulikana kwamba ile picha ilikuwa hata sio ya mwaka ule, na haikuwa kwa incident iliyokuwa inatokea pale, ilikuwa ni issue ya yule mtu alikuwa kwanza ni South Africa na alikuwa ni armed robber. Ilikuwa ni incident ya majibizano kati ya robbers na police. She didn't do her research. She shared because she was, because the whole community at that time was in this hyper violent, sensitive, emotional situation. She didn't think about it. She just shared. Give another example using Nicki Minaj. Ametweet kwamba she's not sure about the vaccine because her brother amepata testicles zake zimevimba baada ya kuchomwa the vaccine. And the chaos ambayo that imetengeneza to a point kwamba the government of Trinidad the government had to respond and say, hey, first of all, that is STD. It has nothing to do with the vaccine. Hakuna proven anything medical ambayo inaonyesha vaccine inaweza affect testicles and genital parts and stuff like that. And the government of US had to call Nicki to go to the White House. I don't know what happened later, sijafuatilia. Lakini Nicki anafuatiliwa na millions of people. And that kind of misinformation can go so viral. Now, in such a situation, how do you control that? And it boils down to ethics za mtu. It boils down to preparedness of a community to know how do you salvage such a situation, one in which the government the seriousness of the matter had to go and offer an official statement kwamba, hey, jamani, kilichopo ni hichi na hichi na hichi. Create an environment ambayo the damage done inaweza ikapunguzwa, haiwezi ikaondolewa completely. Now, ukija kwenye the technical side of things, it's what a lot of technology companies are working with. Issues that AI be able to filter what is a good actual real information and what is fake. Tough kwa sababu ya language barrier. Machine learning is still something that we're building up. Kwa mfano Swahili machine learning in Tanzania, we're still, I know how Inspire Ideas are working on that diligently, Tanzania AI Lab and stuff like that, because that's something will take longer. Lakini measures nyingine ambazo zilikuwa taken. Kwa mfano company kama Twitter walifikia kipindi Twitter you can't share a blog post. Itakupa message, you have not read this post, are you sure you want to share? Lakini kama kuna any information, let's say kwa mfano sasa hivi any information ukishare about COVID, platforms, kwa mfano platforms, mpaka platform kama Canva ambayo it's purely graphic design nani ukijui health and stuff, inaleta kabisa a message, an alert message, na inakuletea link ya WHO, World Health Organization. Similarly, Instagram wataflag ile kitu ya kusema kwamba the right COVID informations we need. Similarly, Twitter, they were doing that. The approach they did that, kwa mfano, the approach walioifanya, it was extreme, but it was necessary. The approach walioifanya na the former president wa US, Donald Trump, to ban him from all platforms, because now from just misinformation and manipulation, literally it created riot and chaos in the US that we've not seen in a very long time. Kwa hiyo, it needs a systematic, sensitive, culture sensitive, individual sensitive, and inclusive approach when you could deal na hii kitu from both the technology point of view and the human point of view, and then uje kwenye legal and regulatory point of view. So yeah, that's I don't think, in my personal point of view, it's a 360 approach. It's not something ambayo mtu anaweza kukwambia this is what needs to be done and it will be like this, because misinformation doesn't just go in terms of habari like zanani. Misinformation society goes back into me taking a clip or somebody taking a clip of me saying, putting it kwenye AI, generate a completely new different speech pattern using my voice, and generate news ambayo ni inaonyesha a clip nasema kitu ambacho I never even said. So there's a lot with the growth of technology and interconnectedness that we're dealing with right now.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Kayanda, are you satisfied with the explanations that have been brought by Vanessa?
Asante, mwambie akaribie tena siku nyingine. Asante kwa maelezo mazuri.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for taking your time being with us, and other participants for being here, for your contribution. And Vanessa, usituchoke for the next session, maybe tutakuhitaji. So karibu sana, and thank you all for the participation. Mpaka wakati mwingine. Asante sana.
Asante. Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.